Hey everyone, and welcome back. Are you ready to dive into a topic that's both fascinating and a little bit sneaky?
Oh, I love a good challenge. What are we uncovering today?
Today we're talking about fake wealth. You know those subtle signs that someone might be more about appearances than actual affluence?
Ah, the art of illusion. It's more common than you might think.
Exactly. And we're going to give our listeners the tools to spot those signs, whether they're navigating a high-stakes business meeting or just curious about the psychology behind it all.
It's a bit like being a social detective, isn't it? Looking for those little clues that reveal the truth.
Absolutely. And the truth is, genuine wealth often looks very different from what we see portrayed in the media.
You're so right. Think about it. A whopping 80% of U.S. millionaires are self-made.
Wow, 80%, that's a huge number.
It is, and they often live surprisingly modest lifestyles. They're not flashy. They're focused on building long-term financial security.
So you're telling me the guy in the modest sedan might actually be a millionaire, while the one with the least Lamborghini is drowning in debt?
It's definitely possible. It all comes down to priorities. Those self-made millionaires, they understand the power of compounding interest, of investing wisely. They're playing the long game.
It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's about building a solid foundation brick by brick.
Exactly.
This makes me think about all those designer logos I see plastered everywhere. Are those a red flag?
It can be. Think of it this way. Someone who has truly arrived, who's genuinely wealthy, they don't need to advertise their status with a head-to-toe designer ensemble.
It's like they're trying too hard.
Right?
Like they're wearing their bank statement on their sleeve.
Exactly. It's almost like they're insecure about their wealth, so they need to constantly display it.
And wouldn't that apply to all sorts of status symbols, not just clothes? Cars, houses, vacations.
Absolutely. You see this all the time. Someone might be driving a luxury car, but living in a modest apartment. And again, there's nothing wrong with renting or living within your means. It's about priorities.
Right. But a big mismatch between your ride and your residence can definitely raise some eyebrows. It's like they've prioritized the external image over the foundation.
Exactly. They're focused on projecting a certain image, even if it's not entirely accurate.
And speaking of projecting an image, we can't forget about social media.
Oh, the curated world of Instagram.
Right. How many times have you scrolled through and seen those living my best life posts, complete with yachts, champagne, and exotic locales?
Oh, countless times. It's the highlight reel, not the behind the scenes.
But here's what I find fascinating. Have you ever noticed how sometimes those private jet photos all look suspiciously similar?
Oh, you mean those sets you can rent specifically for those staged wealthy lifestyle shots?
Exactly. It's the illusion of wealth, perfectly packaged for Instagram.
And it's not the only inconsistency you'll find. Someone might tag a luxury hotel, but then accidentally reveal their IKEA coffee table in a later story.
The carefully constructed facade starts to crumble. It's like a detective novel. You just need to look for those little inconsistencies to see the truth.
You're a natural at this, you know. You've got a keen eye for detail.
Speaking of detectives, doesn't constantly name dropping also fall into this category of wanting to appear connected and wealthy?
Absolutely. It's all about associating themselves with prestigious names, places, or experiences, whether it's a celebrity chef or a luxury brand.
It's like they're trying to borrow someone else's status to boost their own. Like you're just trying to have a normal conversation and they're dropping names left and right.
Exactly. It's less about genuine connections and more about creating an impression. It's all smoke and mirrors.
So we've got the designer overload, the car address mismatch, the carefully curated Instagram feed, and the constant name dropping.
Sounds like a bingo card for spotting fake wealth.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But is there a common thread here? It feels like it's all about projecting an image rather than focusing on substance.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about creating a perception of wealth, even if it's not rooted in reality.
But why? What drives this desire for external validation?
That's a great question, and one we'll explore in more detail in our next segment. Stay tuned, deep divers. We'll be right back.
We will indeed.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, where were we? Yes, the million-dollar question. Why this obsession with appearing wealthy?
It's a puzzle, isn't it? And I think a big piece of that puzzle is our society. It's like we're constantly bombarded with images of wealth and success, from reality TV to those perfectly filtered Instagram feeds.
It's everywhere you look.
Yeah.
And it creates this pressure to keep up, to project this perfect image, even if it means stretching the truth a bit. or maybe a lot.
It's like everyone's trying to win some imaginary most affluent award.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, striving to impress everyone else can actually lead to some pretty bad financial decisions.
Oh, absolutely. People get so caught up in keeping up appearances that they end up living way beyond their means. It's like they're stuck on a financial treadmill, running faster and faster, but going nowhere.
And all that running can lead to some serious stress and anxiety. It's like you're constantly looking over your shoulder, worried that someone's going to see through the facade.
You know, it's funny, we often talk about keeping up with the Joneses, but in today's world, it's more like keeping up with the Kardashians. It's this global phenomenon fueled by social media where we're comparing ourselves to these impossibly perfect images.
And that comparison game, it can be brutal. It's like you're constantly measuring yourself against some imaginary standard and always coming up short.
It can really take a toll on your self-esteem, and that's where the psychology of this all gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, think about it. Some people have a much deeper need for external validation than others. Their sense of self-worth is tied to how others perceive them.
So it's not really about the material possessions themselves, but about what they represent: status, acceptance, success.
Exactly. They're trying to fill some kind of void with external things.
It's almost like they're trying to buy happiness, but it's a fleeting kind of happiness.
It is. And that need for validation, it can manifest in so many ways. Think about the person who has to have the latest iPhone the second it comes out, even if their old phone works perfectly fine.
Oh, I know that type. It's the gotta have the newest, shiniest thing syndrome.
It's all about status symbols. But the irony is, genuine wealth often has a quiet, understated quality to it.
It's true. Think about those philanthropists who donate millions to charity without ever making a big fuss about it. Their actions speak volumes.
It's like the saying goes, true generosity doesn't need an audience.
That's a good one. So we've talked about the societal pressures, the psychology behind it all, and the obsession with status symbols. It's clear that there's a lot more to this fake wealth phenomenon than meets the eye. But here's what I'm really curious about. If people are so focused on appearances, are they actually avoiding the real work of building wealth?
You've hit on a crucial point. And in my experience, the answer is often yes.
So they're skipping the chapters on saving, budgeting, investing, all that boring stuff.
Exactly. They're more interested in looking wealthy than actually becoming wealthy.
It's like they're trying to build a house, starting with the roof.
That's a perfect analogy. And this brings us to an important distinction. Appearing wealthy versus actually building wealth.
Okay, I'm all ears. Let's unpack that.
Someone who's fixated on appearances might go into debt just to buy that fancy car or take that lavish vacation. They're sacrificing their financial security for the sake of appearances.
It's like they're living on borrowed time, borrowed money.
Exactly. And that's not sustainable. It's a recipe for financial disaster.
On the other hand, someone building true wealth understands that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
You got it. It's about patience, discipline, and making smart financial choices.
Choices that might not always be the most glamorous or Instagram-worthy, but that set you up for long-term success.
Exactly. They're building a solid foundation, brick by brick.
It's like the difference between a flimsy stage set and a well-constructed building. One is designed for show, the other is built to last.
I love that analogy, and I think it's an important message for our listeners. True wealth isn't about impressing others, it's about building a life you love.
It's about finding that sweet spot where financial security and personal fulfillment intersect.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this question. Are you chasing the illusion of wealth, or are you building something genuine and lasting? The answer might surprise you.
That's a powerful question, and one that we'll continue to explore in our final segment. So with this, deep divers, we'll be right back. Welcome back, deep divers.
It feels like we've really gone deep into this world of fake wealth, haven't we?
We have. We've talked about the signs, the pressures, the psychology. It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. But I think what's become even more clear through all this is that true wealth is so much more than just the stuff you own.
Absolutely. It's not just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about so much more than that. It's about experiences, it's about relationships, it's about purpose, it's about waking up every day and feeling truly content with your life, wouldn't you say?
I couldn't agree more. It's about aligning your actions with your values and knowing deep down that you're living a life that feels meaningful to you.
And I think that's an incredibly powerful message, especially in today's world. I mean, everywhere we look, we're bombarded with messages about material success. It's easy to get swept up in that.
It is, and it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. But I think there's a growing movement of people who are pushing back against that, who are redefining what success looks like.
I love that. And I think that's what we're trying to do here today. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's talk about how we can all cultivate this genuine wealth, this inner richness that actually brings lasting happiness.
I think a great place to start is with a simple question. What does true wealth mean to you?
That is a great question. And I think the answer is going to be different for everyone. But asking that question is a good first step, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's about defining success on your own terms, not by someone else's standards. What brings you joy? What are your values? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? These are the questions that can guide you.
And once you have some clarity on that, you can start making choices that align with those values, right? Maybe it means prioritizing experiences over possessions, or investing more time in your relationships, or pursuing a passion project that lights you up.
Exactly. It's about shifting your focus from acquiring things to creating a life that feels fulfilling from the inside out.
And that's a journey that's going to look different for everyone.
It will, but I think there's some universal principles that can help us along the way, like practicing gratitude for what we already have.
That's such a good one. Because when you're focused on what you're grateful for, it's a lot harder to get caught in that comparison trap.
Exactly. And that trap can be so draining, can't it?
It really can. It's like you're always chasing something that's just out of reach. And I think another important principle is recognizing that true wealth is not a finite resource.
You're so right. It's not a pie that has to be divided up. There's enough abundance to go around for everyone.
And when we support others in their success, it actually creates a ripple effect that benefits us all.
It does. It's a win-win.
And of course, we can't forget about financial literacy, understanding how money works, how to manage it wisely, how to invest it for the future. These are essential skills for anyone who wants to build a truly secure and fulfilling life.
You're absolutely right. Financial literacy is empowering. It gives you the freedom to make choices that align with your values without feeling limited by your circumstances.
And it's a journey that we can all be on, no matter where we are right now. There's always more to learn and more to explore.
Absolutely. It's a lifelong process of growth and discovery.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of fake wealth and true wealth, I think the message I really want to leave our listeners with is this. It's not about the outward show, it's about the inner substance. It's about building a life that feels authentic, aligned, and truly fulfilling.
I love that. And remember, deep divers, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring these ideas, keep asking those big questions, and keep building a life that reflects your values and aspirations. We're all in this together.
We are. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep seeking that true wealth in all its forms.